We're talking pre-approvals. Having that pre-approval in your hand and why it is such an essential step to purchasing a home, right? And I always joke that the industry has it backwards, because what happens when somebody wants to see a house?
They want to go, they call a realtor.
They call you.
They say, hey, we go check out this house. I love this house.
And then you have to turn around and say, hey, are you pre-approved? And naturally they're like, well, no, we just, we saw it. And if you don't have a lender contact, that's one thing. It kind of makes sense, right? But really you need to have those financing conversations ahead of time so that when you do find that house, you're ready to roll. And it does a couple of things. It gives you peace of mind that you're not going to be wasting your time showing this house to somebody that can't buy it. So that's huge. And just having the peace of mind as the buyer too, to be able to make an offer in the event that you walk through it, you're like, yes, this is for me. Let's roll. You have that pre-approval in hand and you can write it up there on the spot.
Exactly. So one of the first things I do when a buyer calls me and says, hey, I'd like to go see this house. I try and sit down and say, hey, let's schedule about 15, 20 minutes to have just kind of quick buyer consultation. I'll sit down and kind of go through the buying process and then kind of give them a little bit of a to-do list. And some of it has to do with, first thing in the top of the to-do list is definitely get pre-approved. Mm-hmm. And then after that, kind of let's put down your needs and your wants and your wish list. And then everything else will kind of fall in place. Once we have everything lined up, we know where we're at pre-approved wise. And then we start go shopping. So it's easier than kind of reverse engineering everything and let's go shopping first and then decide if we can afford the house. Why is it important to get your pre-approval first?
Well, just having your financing in order and knowing that if you do write a house that it's going to close. Because you can write offers all day long, and then if it gets accepted, now what, right? You're kind of left to scramble around and talk to mortgage companies and try to put something together, and it just gets too hectic. You need to be prepared. You need to have something where if you do run into that house, you can say with confidence as a buyer, hey, I can close on this thing. Because the seller doesn't know either in all actuality. Like, am I going to accept this offer and never seek the closing table, right?
Right. So I always tell my buyers, I said, first thing we do when we write an offer, the sellers are first thing they're going to look for, honestly, is their pre-approval. Or if you don't need a pre-approval, proof of funds, bank statements, something like that, showing you have the money available to purchase.
We don't get to work with those folks, unfortunately.
All right. We do on occasion have those.
Yeah.
So, but what it does for us here on the real estate side is it helps me narrow down their home search. If they're approved conventional, pretty much open to 99% of the homes, unless it's something that significantly needs repairs and it's not financeable at all.
Right.
Then the other side of it is if you have a FHA loan, a VA loan, a rural development loan, that helps us kind of look through the homes and see, well, these homes even qualify, because the one thing I tell my clients is the worst thing we can do is fall in love with a home that you can't buy.
That's right. Yeah, and usually those terms are outlined on the listing itself, right? So you'll know, based on the program that you can qualify for, and maybe you need FHA. My goal is to try to approve you for as many loan options as possible. It's going to give you a wider range of homes, and then even if a program like FHA makes more financial sense, maybe it's a competitive situation, that conventional offer is going to look a little more attractive in the seller's eyes. So maybe you decide to make that choice and jump to conventional, even if it's the less financially advantageous route to go, just to try to get the house.
Absolutely. So, that's part of the buyer consultation that I do, and we have a little bit of a strategy. So we kind of outline what the strategy looks like. So like if we want to go look at certain homes, maybe there's certain homes that they're willing to do a conventional loan on, if it's a multiple offer situation. And then maybe there's others that, given the price point or various reasons, they want to really go with an FHA product.
Right.
But then we know that, we can't be competitive for those types of loans possibly on that particular home, because maybe it just doesn't qualify for an FHA type loan. So,
and maybe it's condition, but also you think about like USDA, that's geography, right? So some of it has nothing to do with you as the borrower. Some of it just predicated on the house.
Exactly.
And where it's at.
So doing your homework up front, getting your checklist done, going through your pre-approval process. The other thing, one more thing it also helps us with is if the buyer needs assistance with closing costs and help with that, that's something that we have to strategize and make sure we have it written into our offer as to how we do that. Do we write offers and add the amount of our offer price, how much closing costs that they need, or do we feel like we're in a situation for the home, what we can offer is, whatever our offer price is, plus our closing costs. So kind of looking at the different strategies, but really, really having that pre-approval in place will give us a really strong strategy to put in place how we want to put an offer in on a home.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is have to go back and try to renegotiate after an offer is accepted as a nightmare
It just
scenario.
doesn't work.
Nope.